Hey, hi there. Dennis St. Germain here, and I want to discuss about the five fingering patterns for guitar improvisation. And the first step in this stuff is to learn the patterns uh, along the frets, all in one key, so that you're expanding the fingerboard all the way up the neck in one key. And then the next step we'll do is keeping your hand in one position, some random position, and playing all five patterns in five different keys without the need to move your hand from one, basically like a 4 to 5 fret area of the fingerboard. So here we are with fingering pattern number one. The red dots are the root of the pattern, and the circled dots over here on the outside are the open strings. This is the open string pattern, pattern number one. And remember, when you move this pattern down, you've got to remember that your first finger is then going to be playing these, what are now white dots, which are going to turn yellow, I guess, if you want to call it like that. And so your first finger is playing all the notes right here, which would be end up, well, if you moved it 1 fret down, they'd all be right here. And the root obviously is going to change too. So if you moved it all 1 fret down, since this is C, your notes are going to end up being D flat or C sharp. And then you can move it one more fret down and you have D, and etc., etc. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is to learn pattern number one in the open position. Then step two, move the pattern to as many keys as your guitar allows, however many frets you have, and knowing what those root notes are. Now remember where the root of the pattern is, and add your finger in again to compensate for the open strings when you're moving the pattern to other keys. If you have a problem identifying the note names, then I'd suggest referring back to my video. It's identifying all the note names on the guitar in 4 easy steps. There's the URL right there below. You can also look for it on YouTube as well. Learn note names on guitar or something like that, and it'll find it. You'll find it on there. It's got the same guitar graphic and the blue screen and that kind of stuff. So you'll find it. Okay, moving on. Here is fingering pattern number two. Now you notice that the red dots have moved and the pattern is completely different now. This is again all the C's. There's a C there and a C here. And when you're playing this pattern, you're going to start the first note with your second finger. So your second finger, fourth finger, and all these notes on this fret are going to be played with your first finger, and these are all played with your second finger. This note here is played with your third finger, and then you have a little bit of a position change or switch. You're moving in 1 fret with your first finger, and then you're playing these three notes here with your first finger, third finger, and fourth finger, first finger, third finger. Now the next thing is to do is learn pattern number two, starting on the 6th-string 3rd fret. Again, the pattern, this whole process is basically the same idea. Move the pattern to as many keys as your guitar allows, moving up the fingerboard. Remember where the root of the pattern is. Also, after you're thoroughly familiar with the pattern number two, try playing both patterns, keeping your hand in the same position, and figure out what key you're in based on each of the roots of the pattern. So you could like close your eyes and pick a spot on the guitar, and then find whatever the notes are there in that, using pattern number one. Play that pattern through right there. Keep your hand in the same place, and then figure out the next roots and see what key that is, and play that pattern without moving your hand from that position on the guitar. Now remember, you got to really slow down with this stuff and take your time with it, because it's not some stuff that you can pick up overnight. This is stuff that you have to practice slowly. And then I would suggest using a metronome to keep time so that you're playing this stuff slowly and evenly. And if you're using a flat pick, I would say use alternate picking on every note, every other note. So it's down, up, down, up, down, up. That'll also improve your picking chops and improve your speed as well. And remember, this is pretty heavy duty stuff, so remember that it's going to take some time. All right, moving on to number 3, pattern number 3. Here is the red dots now are representing C notes on the guitar. So this is, again, this pattern is all in pattern in the key of C. You're starting this pattern with your first finger, and there's going to be a little bit of a switch out here. Your first finger is going to move out 1 fret for this particular on the 3rd string right here, and then you got a switch over right away back in with your first finger. So your first finger is going to be the guide here. You're moving down, switch out, move in, switch back in, and play the rest of the stuff. And again, you want to try to have use your 4 fingers that you have in front of you, and use one little rule here, rule of finger rather than rule of thumb, is to use 1 finger per fret. So whatever fret you're on, first finger plays here, and obviously your first finger is moving over, so you got a little bit of a change in routine here. This would be the first finger, this would be the second finger, and this would be the 4th finger for this particular string right here. Now, the idea here is to learn pattern number 3, and then move the pattern to as many keys as your guitar allows, however many frets you have, remembering where that root pattern is. And then after you're thoroughly familiar with pattern 3, try playing all 3 patterns, keeping your hand in the same position, and figure out what key you're in based on the roots of each pattern. Again, slow down and practice this stuff slowly. Use a metronome and alternate picking. Okay, next one is fingering pattern number 4. This one's used quite a lot. A lot of guitar players seem to gravitate around this one. This one, I don't know why, it's a real popular pattern. I think it's because there's no position changes, slight position changes, and I think that's why guitar players seem to gravitate to this one. Again, the red dots are representing the C notes, and you want to make sure that your first finger starts this particular pattern. And you got to remember too that these patterns are not designed to sound like a scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. These patterns are using the complete range of the span of frets that you happen to be on. So it starts on some particular note and goes to some other particular note. And the idea here is so that when you're soloing, your solos aren't going to start to sound like a scale, and so you want to make sure that that's happening, and that's kind of how these patterns are designed. And I'll tell you later on, you can learn where the first note is, the second, third, fourth, and then you can start altering these patterns once you're familiar with them. And again, these are all major scale patterns, and start altering them to create the jazz minor scale, the minor scale, the pentatonic scale. All those are derived from these particular patterns. Another step here, again, same process. Learn pattern 4. Move pattern 4 to as many frets as your guitar has. Know where the root of the pattern is. And then once you're thoroughly familiar with pattern 4, try playing all 4 patterns, keeping your hand in one position or one area of the guitar, and then figure out what key you're in. Now, at this point, you should be able to play in 4 different keys in any one random position at this point. And again, I can't stress to slow down and practice this stuff slowly and use a metronome to keep time. Okay, and last but not least, fingering pattern number 5. Again, the red dots show you where the C's are. And this one, again, there's a little bit of a position switch here for these two strings, the 4th string and the 3rd string, and then a switch back in on the 2nd string. Again, 1 finger per fret routine, and then you're good to go. Hope that helps.